Donald's attacks on our democracy become more blatant, more frequent, and more egregious by the day. This morning, he decided to get up very early in the morning, or maybe he was just staying up very late, and start posting about his plans to reshape our voting system, which I guess is code for destroying it, which is a wonderful way to start off a week after a week that ended with his capitulating to an autocratic dictator. Donald said in part, quote, "I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots and also, while we're at it, highly, quote unquote, inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, which cost 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated watermark paper, which is faster and leaves no doubt at the end of the evening as to who won and who lost the election. Elections could never be honest, mail-in ballots voting and everybody, blah, blah, blah." I mean, oh my God, really? Take a breath. Unquote. I'm sure Donald would love to restrict who can vote. I mean, the Republicans have been trying to do this for years and years and years with the not inconsiderable assistance of Chief Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice of the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court. Donald would be thrilled to see slower, less accurate methods of voting. He doesn't care about making sure all Americans have the right to vote. He wants to win no matter what, and he knows that he can't win legitimately. How does he know this? Because he never has in his entire life. And here's the tell, because again, this is not just about Donald. This is about the fascist Republican Party. In a healthy democracy, those in power should want everybody who is eligible to have the right to vote. They should want to make voting easier for more people. The Republicans have always wanted the opposite. And this goes back to Jim Crow. So it shouldn't surprise us that they would pick as their leader somebody who is completely aligned with the agenda of disenfranchising as many Americans as humanly possible. But why now? I mean, don't get me wrong. The Republicans never stop. They're always trying to figure out new ways to gerrymandering, new ways to suppress votes, new methods of voter subversion. But Donald seems to be on a tear about this recently. So why his sudden attack on voting rights? We have everybody's favorite election stealing dictator, a man who routinely wins his elections with over 87% of the vote, to blame in part for putting these ideas in Donald's head or confirming some of Donald's darkest suspicions about what's been going on in this country vis-a-vis voting. Because apparently at their meeting in Alaska on Friday, Putin ramped up Donald's fears about the integrity of our voting systems. A quick reminder, although the Republicans would have us believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in this country that requires extreme measures, it's a rare phenomenon that has had no impact whatsoever on the outcome of our elections. A Brennan Center report, The Truth About Voter Fraud, found incident rates of voter fraud to be between 0.0003% and 0.0025%. A vanishingly small percentage. It is, the report concluded, more likely that an American, quote, will be struck by lightning than that he will impersonate another voter at the polls, unquote. Let's put it another way. A comprehensive 2014 study found 31 credible instances of impersonation fraud from 2000 to 2014 out of more than 1 billion ballots cast. As I said, a vanishingly small number that is not a problem at all. But let's look what Donald had to say about Putin's influence over him.
Vladimir Putin said something, one of the most interesting things. He said your election was rigged because you have mail-in voting. He said mail-in voting every election. He said no country has mail-in voting. It's impossible to have mail-in voting and have honest elections. And he said that to me. It was very interesting because we talked about 2020. He said, you won that election by so much. And that's how he got it. He said, and if you would have won, we wouldn't have had a war. You'd have all these millions of people alive now instead of dead. And he said, and you lost it because of mail-in voting. It was a rigged election, but mail-in voting.
So amazing that after all these decades, Putin knows just exactly what to say to influence the little guy. Yes, we should absolutely take Vladimir Putin at his word and trust him implicitly and completely when he tells us he is deeply concerned about the millions of lives that have been lost. Let me put it another way. Vladimir Putin doesn't care at all about the hundreds of thousands of innocent Ukrainian people he has murdered. And here's the thing. Donald doesn't care anything about it either, because once again, Putin is telling Donald exactly what he wants to hear about how great and successful he is, what a winner he is. It should be blindingly clear to all of us that Putin is manipulating Donald as he always has. Fiona Hill, senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, a nonpartisan think tank, weighed in on CBS's Face the Nation, delivering some hard facts about the reality of Putin and Donald's comments. Take a look.
Putin wants to sow chaos in the American electoral system ahead of the midterms. So, of course, he's laid into this whole issue of mail-in voting. And President Trump asserted in his Fox News interview that there are no countries in the world that allow mail-in voting. Well, Russia allows mail-in voting. And if everybody wants to go out and look, they can look for themselves. In 2020, President Vladimir Putin signed into law Russians being able to vote by mail and also on the internet. And more than 30 other countries also allow some forms of mail-in voting. So it's just not true that other countries, including Russia, don't use this. It's a pure, blatant piece of manipulation. And that's the kind of thing that Putin likes to do.
Fiona Hill knows whereof she speaks. Not only is she an expert in this area, she was part of the first Trump administration for a time. So, get that. Russia has mail-in voting, has voting via internet, and Vladimir Putin, again, telling Donald exactly what he wanted to hear, said, no country on the planet has mail-in voting, and neither should the United States of America, which just tells us yet again how unprepared, how incompetent not only is Donald Trump, but is his team. Because they should know whether or not what Putin is telling their boss is true or not. While Donald comes for our voting systems, mail-in voting, voting machines, he's continuing to push forward his hostile redistricting takeover. Donald has had his sights set on Texas for months with the total complicity of a state that is, quite frankly, a laboratory for fascism. He's come with a war plan to redistrict the state and pick up several House seats, effectively tipping the balance in Republicans' favor permanently, unless Democrats fight back accordingly. But Donald has moved on from focusing solely on Texas, and he has a new state in mind to manipulate, Indiana. Politico reports that pressure is mounting on Indiana Republicans to take up redistricting ahead of the midterms, just as is happening in Texas, with White House officials privately pressuring lawmakers. The White House is throwing the kitchen sink at Republican legislators in red states in order to get them to do their bidding. White House Intergovernmental Affairs Director Alex Meyer, in his personal capacity, has called Indiana Republicans many times, and the White House is inviting the group to Washington. It's not just White House officials. Those in the MAGA universe who do Donald's bidding are also ramping up pressure, with the likes of Charlie Kirk, heaven forfend, that must be terrifying for them, pressuring Indiana Republicans to move forward with their illegal, unconstitutional redistricting plans. An Indiana GOP official allied with Donald's efforts told Politico, quote, "Donald is playing for keeps this time, and I don't think they understand that. Those guys, frankly, have not felt the slightest iota of the pressure that might be coming down the bend if they oppose Donald on this," unquote. Yes, Donald is putting massive amounts of pressure on Republicans in red states. Let us not pretend that they aren't going to do exactly what he asked them to do. Why? Well, because many of them are cowards, but also most of them, most likely, have no problem with rigging our democracy against the people who cast their votes. In places like Florida, where Democratic seats are already few and far between, it seems that Donald and his Republican allies in that state, like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, are looking to destroy the, quite frankly, insignificant footholds Democrats have there. They're targeting South Florida, where in places like Miami, Democrats have found some electoral success. State Senator Chevron Jones, a Democrat from Miami Gardens, will likely be affected by these redistricting plans, and he made clear what Donald and DeSantis' motivations are. He said, quote, Donald Trump has given orders, and Ron DeSantis, being the person that he is, all he is doing is falling in line. This is the epitome of abuse of power, unquote. Yes, because again, as I said, a lot of Republicans, for reasons that escape me, are afraid of the pathetic creature who is Donald Trump. But also, they share not his ideology, because Donald doesn't have an ideology. They share his agenda. These are people like Donald who want to cling to power no matter how corrupt, no matter what they need to do in order to cling to power. So of course, they will willingly give up any pretense of believing in democracy. They will willingly impede anybody who objects to their illegal, unconstitutional power grab. Why? Because, like Donald, they're small, pathetic men who know they can't win legitimately. Please take a second and like and share this video. Be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating, because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.